Hello everyone! Acustica Audio have released a new plugin. For what I can say to you is for what we think that it's emulating, we think emulating a CALREC EQ and a TRIDENT B range. Now the CALREC is one of the PQ EQs. I can't remember exactly which model it is, but it's a CALREC EQ, which is a very, very, very rare and very expensive EQ. And then you've got the TRIDENT B range console that I'm pretty sure was like used on Queen Night at the Opera. And I'm pretty sure it was a Bowie record. I'm pretty sure it was a Bowie record. This console, but loads and loads and loads of people have used a TRIDENT, and it's not I've always wanted to try out a TRIDENT because I know UAD do one, but I think it's probably the very first CALREC EQ. There might be other ones, so if there is, let me know. But yes, very, very interesting. In terms of the compressors, I think they are CALREC compressors. I don't know what the super comp is. I think comp 1 and the limiter is possibly a certain type of CALREC compressor and limiter. I don't know what super comp is, and I don't know what the limiters are. Again, it's just came out. So again, if you know any more about it, then let me know down there. But yes, let's get straight into it and let's hear how this thing sounds. So today we are looking at the Acustica Audio CAMEL CALREC TRIDENT B range. Is it better than what I already use? Right, so first off, let's have a look in Plugin Doctor and let's see what's going on behind the hood with both EQs. So it's just so we can kind of see the way the curves are reacting and kind of what's going on. So I kind of know kind of roughly how I would probably like to use it. So let's go straight into it. So that's kind of a quick run through that plugin doctor. So let's hear how this thing sounds. But let's start off with the compressors because I've not went into the compressors. So there are lots of different compressor options. You have Comp 1, Comp 2, Super Comp, Limiter and Super Limiter. I'm pretty sure the compressors are CALREC compressors. I'm pretty sure the Comp 1 and the limiter, I'm pretty sure they're CALREC. I don't know what the other one. I don't know what the super comp is and stuff. I just don't know. But know what? Who cares what they're emulated after that? It's all about what they sound like. So let's do a little shootout. So we'll do comp 1 versus comp 2, and then we'll do super comp versus the super limiter, and then the winner of each will then go head to head to see which one I like, and then we'll then do a last head to head with the compressor that I thought sounded the best, that I own, in the Ultimate Drum Bus Compressor Shootout. Again, I'll stick a link up to that and you guys can watch that, which will be the Slate FG Grey. So let's get straight into it and let's hear how these compressors sound. Right, so Comp 1 versus Comp 2. I much prefer the Comp 1. I just kind of feel like Comp 1 has a little bit more weight to it in the snare. I'm always listening to the snare when I'm doing this. In terms of like the kick, I kind of feel like Comp 2 is just a little bit better on the kick, but overall I prefer the snare in the Comp 1. I feel like it brings out a little bit more, and I just think overall it sounds better. So Comp 1 is what I prefer, and you can hear kind of what the two of them are doing. So let's go into the Super Comp and the Super Limiter, and let's hear how them two sound. Right, okay, so Super Comp, like Comp 1 and Comp 2, it's just kind of really bringing that snare out, but it's even better in the low end. And to me, that was an easier test for me. I don't really like the Super Limiter that much. I think it's doing a little, it's kind of giving it a little bit more, it's kind of pumping a little bit too much for me. But again, if that's your sound, then you can kind of use it in that way. I think the Super Limiter, in terms of what a limiter does, kind of like you can get a TG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in like a limiter mode and really get pumping on like drum room and something like that. So that I could see that being quite handy. But in terms of say a drum bus or a mix bus, I would say the Super Comp for me is the one that sounded best to me, and I could hear it pretty easily. So let's go to Comp 1 and Super Comp. Now this is going to be interesting because already on the Acustica page I've noticed that so many people are saying Comp 1, Comp 1, Comp 1's the winner, that they like the best. So Comp 1, Super Comp. Is there a big difference? Right, okay, so in that one for me, Super Comp is the winner. I think Comp 1's really, really good. There's no getting around it. Again, it's Comp 1, Super Comp. You go, it is perceptual, Paul. It's perceptual. It's because it's a Super Comp, you think it sounds better. No, it doesn't. I genuinely do believe that the snare's coming out a little bit more. It's grabbing the snare, and also what I do quite like as well is that the kick, again, has got a little bit more thud to it as well. Very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. An average listener wouldn't tell the difference. But I do think the Super Comp does sound the best to my ears. Right, okay, so we've done the compressors. Now it's time to hear what these EQs sound like, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take kick, snare, bass, guitar, all from the same session, and then I'm going to play it individually, and then we're going to play it together, and then we're just going to kind of see what this thing sounds like. Okay, so first let's look at kick. So first on the kick we have what I've been using just now, which is the Harrison console, which comes in the form of the Acustica Honey. I just like the low end. I just really like the kind of low end punch, and I really feel like it's really nice analog low end that you get from the Harrison console. So in terms of the way the kick's set up in the CALREC, I've got like a boost at 90. I've got the high pass filter quite high, just again kind of make that low end a little bit more consistent in its boost. Then we're boosting around the 2K mark, and then we're doing a 7K boost as well, and taking a dip in the 400 range as well. And then I'm using Comp 1 because unfortunately the Super Comp isn't in the channel strip. The Super Comp is only in the separate compressor. Again, you've got different kind of plugins. You've got the channel strip, the pre's, EQs, and then you've got the compressor. So the Super Limiter and the Super Comp is only in the compressor section, so it would be using a bit more CPU. So I've used the Comp 1 because again that's what I like the most. So again I've got Comp 1 on this as well, and the Harrison is set again same frequency, set the same way. Compressor wise it's doing about maybe 2 dB of compression. I've got kind of a fast-ish attack and a faster release on the kick. That's just what I thought sounded better. And again the Harrison is kind of set up the exact same way, EQs and compressors, everything kind of set as close as possible. So which one sounds the best? Right, okay, so there, the CAMEL just sounded way, way, way better. For me, it's got this nice kind of really low-end punch in there. I think I still like the Honey because I still think it's got kind of a nice little bit of like analog weight in there. But in terms of punch, the I forget what they're called. The CAMEL is definitely standing out way more to me, and I think in a mix it's going to really punch a lot harder. So yeah, there you go. Straight off the bat, the CAMEL beats what I'm already using just now. So there you go, right? One win to CAMEL. So let's move on to the snare and let's see what we've got. So the snare's a little bit, this is a harder one, okay? Because I'm using the magenta, and we all know from my magenta video that I did a wee while ago that I adore the magenta, which is based on the massive passive. I use the magenta on a lot, and I do use it on snare. So this is going to be quite a hard test. This is a very, very hard test for me, and I think one that might split opinion. So let's get into the kind of the way that I've got them set up. Now, when I'm setting this up, I was kind of forced to use the CALMEC for the low end, because the problem is with the Trident, it's got 60 and it's got like 120. It's like that's all you've got, and I normally kind of the lowest that I add in the snare is normally around 200 to 220. So I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna have to use the CALMEC for this. So again, high pass filters I've got that again to kind of tighten and make that bell more consistent. Again, I'm bringing that high pass filter. And again, the high pass filter really is your friend if you really want to kind of tighten that low end in this thing. So again, I've got the high pass filter, say around like 120 hertz, just kind of keeping that tight. And then I've got a boost at 900 hertz that I normally like to do. Again, I'm always in the CALREC, I'm always using the narrowest. Always, I'm never again because it's quite wide and I want it to be as narrow as possible. So it's always it is like narrowest setting. And then we've got the high end. I really, 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 really love what the Trident does. It just adds this energy and this colour, and I just think it's really, really cool. It gives you kind of a different sound. So these two do sound different, and you are going to hear that. Remember that high end roll off I was speaking about? It's just kind of there's no way of getting around it. It's just always there, even with like the low pass filters off. So comp one in again, fast-ish attack. A much slower release on this kind of because I just kind of want to still bring out kind of the sustain of the snare, kind of just not kind of squash it too much. And yeah, 3:1 ratio, doing about 1 to 2 dB of compression. So let's hear what the snare sounds like with the lows of the CALREC and the coloured highs of the Trident versus the magenta. So let's get into it and let's hear which one I prefer. Now, to me, this one in the snare is genuinely going to split opinion. It's completely subjective. I prefer the magenta, but I also do like what the CAMEL is doing. I do like what it's doing. It's just I think if I was to get more kind of high end back into the CAMEL, I think I might actually prefer the CAMEL. But shooting out 1 to 1, I would probably say that I do prefer the magenta here, okay? Now, let's move to bass. So, in bass, what I've always been using the Coffee comp because I really like the way, that's an RS124, the Chandler. I really like how that kind of cleans up the bass. And then I've been using the ebony quite a lot. And not a lot of people use the ebony EQs, but I really like the low end. It's got this really, really massive low end in it. And again, I kind of use that compressors, kind of two compressors going on here to kind of make sure that I kind of keep that kind of low end really tight and consistent. So the CAMEL's going to be up against, to me, quite a strong chain because the Coffee compressor is amazing, and also the ebony's got this really nice low end, and I like it's got quite nice mids as well to kind of really help it poke through. Right, so in terms of bass, I normally like to be quite a little bit more surgical and a little bit more narrow. So on this one, I've got the Trident on the low end, so you can hear what the Trident sounds like on the low end, and I've got about a 60 in. And what I really like is, again, what I mentioned about that high pass filter, it's like big massive boost, woof, just like, there you go, let's tighten up that low end. So we've got the low end, then I've got the coloured mids of the Trident, which I'm falling in love with. So we're going 1.5, always find that you add about 1.5 in the bass. For me anyway, my ears, it just kind of pokes out the mix a little bit more. And then I've got about a 4K for a bit of DI with the CALREC. Yeah, so let's hear the difference between the ebony and the CAMEL. my god, what the fuck? Like that, oh my god, that's just, that there is like, bang. As soon as I heard that, I was like, that's what I want. That's what I'm talking about. That is a great bass sound. Great bass sound. I still feel like the ebony has a little bit more lows. That's what I love about the ebony. I just kind of still feel like the lows are there, but overall, the aggression of it is so coloured. The bass is just like, it's just right there. It's just kind of like, I am a bass, listen to me. And it's just, oh, I just love the aggression. I love the colour. I love the attitude of it. The grit of it. It's adding this nice grit and colour and energy. That's fantastic. I love that. I love the sound of that. We've got, so I got one on the kick, one on the bass. So on the lows, I could say this thing is probably the best that I've tried out on the lows. Right, snare, magenta, but I love magenta. I just love it. So let's try it out on guitars. The final piece of the puzzle here, against magenta again. I love magenta on guitars. The massive passive, the manly massive passive, the cut that I get, and the cleanliness and the width. It's just, I love it. Now it's going to be difficult. So surprise, I'm using the Trident again for those mids and those highs. Oh my god, you're in for a treat, okay? So again, I like the lows. I do like the lows because again, the Trident, as I said, is very limited, 60, 120. And the 120, it's just, don't use it. It's just, whoa, it just basically takes everything and raises it. It's odd. I find that a bit odd. So again, really, it's like 60 is only usable one. So this one's really simple. 3 frequencies being boosted. I've got the low end about 150, the CALREC. Again, I've got a very steep high pass filter in. Again, you keep on seeing me do that because again, I want to tighten that low end. So 120 high pass and about 150, 60 boost with the CALREC. And again, I've got the mid switched off because I love, again, I did go backwards and forwards between the 2.3, 2.8 region of the CAMEL versus the Trident, and the Trident kind of won every time for me. It's just those coloured mids that I love. So I've got the 2.8 of the Trident and I've got 8K of the Trident as well. And again, I'm using the Comp 2 again because for this one I didn't really, again, it's only maybe only doing like 2 dB max. Again, I'm very subtle on my compression. I don't like to hit things too hard. So Comp's not doing much. I've got, again, the pre's always on. CALREC Trident against my favourite magenta, again, kind of set the same way. Let's see how that gets on. Now that one was really interesting. Here's the thing. I prefer the magenta. The magenta is wider, and I do think that it's more tighter and consistent in its low end. Kind of like in the chug kind of parts, it's just a little bit kind of melts into the bass a little bit more, and it's kind of just got a little bit more glue in the low end, and again it's got a little bit more cut, and it just overall sounds wider and better to me, and it's going to fit better in a mix. But that guitar, and honestly, see that Trident, and what it says of it, it's like I said, the bass, it's almost like sticking an overdrive pedal on it. It's this saturation, and it's like it's kind of smoother, but again, I'm losing. It's like for some reason, it's not as wide as the magenta, and I can kind of get the top end roughly the same, but it's that width which makes the magenta seem brighter, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is, because there's times, see, when I listen to them in isolation, and I'm like, oh my god, that sounds brilliant. Oh my god, the CAMEL, like, oh, with the Trident, oh, mwah. And then I put in the magenta, and I'm like, but that sounds better, and they sound completely different, and it is very subjective. And I think on certain records, getting a certain type of tone, if you want your guitar a little bit more saturated, a little bit less wide, and a little bit more kind of in your face, then the CAMEL's going to win out every single time. It's honestly, it's a massive colour box. I almost feel like I've added in like a kind of low level overdrive in it. That's kind of, and it's smoothing out. It's just really, really cool. But for me on this mix, I do prefer the magenta. I just prefer it. So let's do my chain versus the CALREC. So all the CALREC kick, snare, bass guitar versus what I had in my chain. And let's hear the differences with purely CALREC and the chain that I've got just now. Right, so that was really, really, really cool, wasn't it? I still prefer the magenta, but only overall. There's parts of the CAMEL that I go, like that does sound better. But overall, if I was to say which one I'd pick, if it was a mix and I had two mixing engineers give it to me, I'd pick my chain. Just because I think the guitars is what's really swaying it. I think there's such a difference in the guitars, and the magenta sounds so good in the guitar and the snare. I kind of think that's what's kind of pushing it above. But, right, okay, because I'm not going to just leave you there. Let's hear my chain, okay, versus my chain with the CAMEL in the bass and the kick. Now, just hear the difference in this. And this, to me, is the game changer. is why I need CAMEL. That's why I need CAMEL. What's amazing to me is I've kept the snares the exact same. The snare sounds way better because whatever the frequencies are doing, like doing a wee dance or whatever the frequencies are doing, it has left more room for the snare, and the snare's just coming out of that mix a little bit more. I think the low end of the CAMEL is just, that to me is just, mwah, that is the best low end I think I'm going to find in terms of punch, and the way that it integrates with the magenta in the guitar and the snare. It's a perfect combination. So I'm getting that nice width and kind of high end from the magenta, but in terms of the low end and the overall punch, I'm getting that from the CAMEL, and it's just rocking, and it's just rocking. And then you imagine, and again, this is without any processing, so it's hard. It's been hard for me doing this because there's nothing on, again, there's nothing on a drum bus, mix bus, there's nothing on the mix bus, right? I've not touched anything, it's completely dry. So I wanted you guys to hear the sound of this, like without any of my mix bus processing, purely the sound of the units. I did say I was going to end up and I was going to finish. Now, kind of after I kind of did it, I went back to it this morning, and I don't know why, because this is what I do. Like my brain goes at 100 miles an hour, and I was like, I love it. I can't leave it at that. I love what it did on guitars. So, right, I'm going to add a little extra bonus for you. I thought, what about if I like the guitars, right? But seeing a guitar solo, sometimes you just want a guitar solo to completely stand out. And I was like, and because I'm in my head, I'm like, the Trident, like in that kind of mid-range area, just like, oh, it just kind of sounds like you're boosting it with a guitar pedal. I was like, I wonder if you were just to use the CAMEL with the Trident, right, in the mid-range, just like on guitar solos, what that would sound like. So there is a guitar solo in this song. Just hear what it does on a guitar solo. So I've put magenta on the guitar solo, and I've also got the CAMEL on the guitar solo. So let's hear the difference very quickly. So again, I'm not here to give you mixing advice. Again, like books like this, that's what they're for, and behind the glass and stuff like that. But just for me anyway, that there is a little spit of secret sauce. That's a trick that I'm going to use on every mix now. That is it. See the difference. See what it does. I think the magenta still sounds great, and for me, I think because like it's got that high end roll off in the CAMEL, and it's got that extra colour in the mid range, it's quite hard for me to like kind of speak about it quickly, but just very quickly, I just feel that the colour and like the way that it kind of sits more in the middle and it's got more of a focus helps the guitar to stand out, but it gives you a different bit of a flavour. So it still kind of melts into the song a little bit more, where I feel like the magenta solo kind of adds, and it's still got that width. But I kind of feel like it's kind of getting in the way a little bit because it's so wide, and the rest of the guitars are so wide. But having that bit of lack of width and that colour in the guitar solo, I love that, and it's a little bit of a trick. Again, I'm not here to give you tricks. Again, just like buy that, right? Buy it, right? It's brilliant, right? And yeah, I just think, so I wanted to show you that. I think that sounds amazing. So to end up, I'd just say, well done to Acustica Audio. You've done it again. It is great. It's a colour box. It's got loads of great, the pre-options are great. The compressors are the best compressor I think you've probably ever done. And yes, go out, buy it, demo it, right? Trial it, right? Do what you need to do. I don't know if it's still on sale just now. It is on like an early sale, so I do suggest you try it out. And yes, mixing Wednesdays, next Wednesday. I can't remember what I'm doing, but I'll see you soon, okay?